consequence. There are consequences. If you hang out in a dilapidated building, then an earthquake comes, and you knowingly stayed there, but your children also stayed with you. The children are going to get killed too, and it's your fault. But it's not the children's fault. Same idea. You're going to speed down the highway. You and everyone with you will suffer. You're the one who's guilty morally, but the consequence reaches everybody. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا الْتَقَى الْمُسْلِمَانِ بِسَيْفَيْهِمَا فَالْقَاتِلُ وَالْمَقْتُولُ فِي النَّارِ. If two Muslims meet and they fight each other, both the killer and the killed are in the fire. O Messenger of Allah, they said, we understand that the killer, but why the killed? Prophet ﷺ said, he was also trying to kill the other one. So it's by intention, not by result. You know, some things are by intention and some things are by results in the Sharia. The intent to do good that results in harm, the ruler can stop it. He can pass a law and stop it, and you're not sinful. To give an example, if a person wants to lower all his prices for the benefit of the community, but in the process, he's putting down all the competition out of business, he's not sinful in the sight of Allah, but the ruler, the governor, can stop this. So you intended good, but you're actually doing harm. Whereas here, a guy, he intended harm, but he never was able to do it. He's punished for his intent. You still try to do it. وقد مضى مبينا في سورة آل عمران عن قوله تعالى ولم يصروا على ما فعلوا فأصبحت كالصريم فتنادوا مصبحين أن يغدوا على حرثكم إن كنتم صارمين فانطلقوا وهم يتخافتون ألا يدخلنها عليهم. So we'll read the rest later, but basically the same idea. They went, and they're going to get the shock of their life when they find that Allah's already destroyed their garden. Now, this is a sign of the righteousness of their father, right? Because if they had done what they wanted to do, all the people would say, he was a good man, but he couldn't raise his kids. So from the taqwa of a father and the generosity of Allah towards that person is that he actually stops your kids from committing sins. He stops them. And Allah Ta'ala preserved the reputation of this family by destroying the garden before they were able to commit all these bad sins. Say that, subhanAllah. That's the value of taqwa. You want Allah to protect your family, that protection may come in forms that you don't imagine, because your family don't deserve anything good. So when Allah destroys their ability to do bad deeds, that's what's good for you. That is literally the goodness. All right, folks, speak. Tafaddal. Where's your mic? No mic for this gentleman? Come sit next to Omar so you can speak. Hold on a second. You guys know what my feed looks like, so I have to play this. No relation. It's just I opened up to see the Q&A, and this is the first thing that shows up in my feed that tells you everything about my feed. Let's look at this one.
We have suffered because of it. We sometimes have the sins of arrogance, smugness, of not listening to the teachings of God and the teachings of the prophets. And we recognize that. We don't claim to chosen people or whatever it is that we are superior and immune from these flaws. But we do recognize that we still have the responsibility of trying to be God's people. And hopefully, we try to do our best. So all I'm saying is, if you look at the whole picture, you see a God of accountability, that we are very definitely accountable and responsible for very serious transgressions. And God is saying that we are His, no matter how bad we are. Now that doesn't mean we get a free ride, and God knows the Jewish people have not gotten a free pass.
That's a very honest person, to be honest with you. I mean, we say about them, you were chosen. all these transgressions had a limit in which you are no longer the chosen people of God. So that part we'll differ with, but at least he's being honest about it. He is being honest about it. And we say, what does Allah now say about them? بَلْ أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقَ. What is the Quranic response to any kind of Jewish superiority? بَلْ أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقَ. You are just people that Allah created. You're one of the people one of the tribes, like the Iroquois, the Japanese, the various Indian tribes in India, subcontinent, Americans, Europeans, Arabs, Africans. You are بَلْ أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقَ. You're just people amongst the people that Allah created. And yes, at one point you were chosen, but chosen on conditions, not unconditionally. There were conditions. You have to accept your prophets and messengers. You can't kill Jesus and say all what you say about the Sayyidah Maryam, Jesus and Mary. Okay. Speak.
It's funny you were bringing up the issue of theodicy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's being too immersed in science fiction, but I just was thinking about this the other day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Lord of all the worlds.
Mm-hmm.
There's the unseen. There are unseen realities. That means there's unseen creation as well.
100%.
So when they're suffering, and the reason I was thinking about this is because I read this article about how plants respond to the emotions of human beings. Positive emotions. Now this might be a little bit wild, but I'm just saying if we really expand our thought process to looking at possibilities that we don't see, right? What if there's creation that has its own system that actually flourishes through the suffering of human beings? Meaning that the emotions that are generated by human beings, which may be the result of pain, of anger, of malice, that they feed off of that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to maintain that order as well.
It's very possible.
I mean,
we know that angels.
It's wild, but I'm just saying
angels are pained by sinfulness. They find it like a stench. So the elimination of sinfulness benefits them.
But I'm saying, what if there's a creation that actually benefits from our suffering?
It could be. You never know.
Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which He is, He maintains everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's the master of everything. That means the seen and the unseen. That there may be unseen realities that He has domain over everything. And so to be just to them might require us suffering in some capacity as well.
Very true. It's very likely and possible. Very likely and possible. Why wouldn't it be? Yeah. We don't know how many beneficiaries there are for everything that we think is bad. All right. That's really the summary of it. We just don't know who the beneficiaries and when they're going to benefit and how they're benefiting. Our mind cannot quantify everything, but Allah can quantify everything.
And there's one very interesting story, War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, which was the basis of the 1950s film, but also the Tom Cruise H.G. Wells film. And this is a spoiler here, so I hope people don't mind. So basically the story is about Martians invading Earth, and they're conquering everything, okay? Nuclear weapons don't work. Nothing works. So what do you think defeats the Martians at the end? Do you remember? Do you know the story or no?
What is it?
It's actually the common cold.
Oh, wow.
And I saved this quote. I was going to save it for tomorrow, but this is what H.G. Wells wrote here, and it's kind of in line with what we're talking about, which is very interesting. He says, the exact quote here, because it's definitely worth saving. But in essence, what he says, well, I'm pulling it up. I can't find out right now. But what he says is that in God's infinite wisdom, it's in the book. He said there are things that He created that we thought were of harm, but we did not know
how necessary
they were, and that basically, in his mind, perhaps these organisms, this cold, was created to save us from this invading force that we never knew was coming in the future.
On Yawm al-Qiyamah, everyone's going to say this about when they see everything. بَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. You're going to see everything. You're going to understand everything on the Day of Judgment. You said why evil existed is your brain could not compute the effects of all this stuff. And that's why bad things happen. But a Muslim takes on faith that there's good to come from it. And that's like the old saying that says that tradition exists because every tradition was a solution to a problem. So you do something, it solves a problem. The problem goes away. The next generation rises, doesn't see the problem, doesn't see the point of the tradition, eliminates the tradition. Next generation, the problem comes back, right? So, and then the next generation after that goes back to the tradition for the solution and finds a solution. And that's a cycle of humanity. And I always find that in diet too. And when you're young, you see adults always saying, eat this, eat this, eat this. And you're like, why would I eat this? It doesn't taste good, right? There's no point. And you stop eating it. Then you eliminate it from your diet completely. Then you reach a point where you realize you got a problem. What's the solution? That thing that you eliminated when you were young, right? Exactly. So you just, we go through these cycles, and people only learn sometimes by direct experience. 100%. That's the thing.
Here's the quote. Actually, it's beautifully phrased, and this is from a non-Muslim writer. But again, you're talking about the fitra and how even the non-Muslims have forgotten that connective tissue that we have with, or should have with, divine truth. Mm-hmm. He says here about the Martians being defeated. He said the end came quickly. All over the world, their machines began to stop and fail. After all that men could do had failed, the Martians were destroyed and humanity was saved by the littlest things which God, in his wisdom, had put on this earth. And that's
so that story is a lesson for people who rush to judgment and throw everything out. And another one said that basically we want to eliminate all these prohibitions, but those prohibitions are actually guardrails from a cliff. And I think about that when I think about zina. Because Western nations, they love their zina, and wonder like, why is it that Eastern nations, they've got these guardrails up, all right? But they realize that when you let zina flourish, you're literally destroying your society. It's like the factory that produces humans, you're letting it go wild without any restriction or any guidance, really. And then you're going to end up with diseases you never heard of, mental illnesses in the next generations that to come because of the emotional imbalance of not knowing, what, your dad didn't want you? Like, why didn't your dad marry your mom? Was your mom so reckless about getting pregnant that she didn't secure a dad first for you? All this stuff, now it's going up, compounding, second, third generation having this. And then you're gonna have a whole generation whose production plummets, birth rate plummets. You literally fell off a cliff because of zina.
And there's also this notion that if you focus so much on the physical or the carnal or the sensual, you're denying yourself the opportunity to embrace and enjoy that which is the spiritual, the emotional.
100% too.
And then what happens is that when you get older, that's why you see a lot of older people who in their 70s, 80s, you know, the sale of Viagra, all these things, they're trying to hold on to the only thing they knew would bring them pleasure. But had they been exposed to so many other things who are metaphysical and beyond what they feel physically, they would be able to transition much more smoothly to the next life and live their last days in bliss. That's why you don't see sadness in the Muslim community among the elderly. You don't see them trying to live, their best years again, as they say.
What they call them like midlife crisis.
Exactly.
Because the physical pleasures are going away, but there's nothing to replace it. And like what prophetic ways are trying to teach people is that you have multiple facets in life. The physical is part of life, but if it goes away, it's okay because the spiritual is there. And when the whole body and the whole world is going away, that's okay too. You got another life coming. And old age is something you only got to deal with once. Right? So, khalas, take it, accept it. It's not like existence is going away. No, the moment an old person dies, he stops being old. Because only the body suffers old age. Of course, souls have age, but they don't suffer elderliness. There's no oldness in it. Right? It's just a number for that. And then you're going to be resurrected, given a body that's young again. Minnesota is having some problems. Apparently, I keep getting messages, but I haven't been able to ascertain facts. It's just hearsay to me. It's just texts and different messages, and someone said this and an unknown person said that. But it seems that the right-wing folks are just trying to bother the Somalians, attack Somalians, and they're basically saying that at some point in time, the allegation is that a masjid gave a member of the community that a letter of upstanding citizenship based on what they know. That's what they knew of the guy. And now it turns out that someone's accusing him of rape, allegedly. But the person accusing him is his former stepdaughter. So there's some interest involved, some conflict of interest. Could be true, could be false. We don't know. And that it's a family dispute amongst themselves, and that accusation was thrown out. So what's my how can I comment on something where I can't ascertain facts? Firstly, who am I, number one, to comment? If it's publicly well known that a group of a mosque is being wronged, or the people of that mosque are being wronged, of course we'd have the responsibility to say something about our Muslim brothers and sisters out there in Minnesota. But we just don't know any facts. But if that was the story, then it's just the right wingers being right wingers, right? It's right wingers trying to smear Muslims for being Muslim and for being Somali and for being immigrant. And we know that the Midwest is full with these racist evangelicals who are just waiting for even something close to that to occur. And any masjid was asked to give a letter of recommendation about a community member, and there are different reasons why that could happen or that may be needed. They're going to give a letter of recommendation based on what they know. They don't know your family life. They just see what you do in the mosque. Oh, help take out the trash, help serve the Ramadan dinner. That's all they know. Donated a couple times. How could they be held liable, responsible for something they didn't know? But again, it's just right wing. They got a media machine, and they need something constantly to keep going. That's the only reason it took, because as to the actual facts, nobody knows. Next question. Is attending a 40-day bid'ah. That means someone died, and then 40 days after that, they have a ceremony, or not a ceremony, a gathering in which they do isal al-thawab. They recite Quran and they give sadaqah, hoping that or believing that and intending the reward go to the deceased. So that is fine and good, but there is nothing specific to the 40 days. Whether they did it on the 39th or the 41st, to us, the action is what's good, and the 40 has no bearing, from what I understand. 40 has no bearing, but the action of isal al-thawab is good. And if a person attended it, he would get, and you intended to give sadaqah in the name of this person so that they can get the reward of it, isal al-thawab is valid in all four madhabs. And you recited Quran, inshallah, he will get the thawab of it. But the community should know that the 40 is not what's required, right? Nor sunnah or anything. So shouldn't have any beliefs related to. There shouldn't be any beliefs related to the 40 days. And if someone did have a belief like that, then that would simply be an error. It would not invalidate the rest of the Quran and the dua and the sadaqah. It wouldn't invalidate it. It's just not a correct, it's a baseless claim. That's it. So we have to separate between what's happening and why it's happening and all that. So how do you respond to a claim that Sadl was something the student of Malik started doing? Well, prove it. That's how we would respond. I love how outside the Maliki madhab, people who are outside of it and can't even name 3 people in the madhab know better about the imam than the Malikis themselves. Do the souls visit their loved ones on Thursdays? We can't say anything for sure about that. Nor even what does it even mean visiting? Where are the souls after death? They're in the barzakh. Where is the barzakh? We can't even pinpoint where it is. North, south, east, west. It's not like that. Pray tahajjud middle of the night and fajr at home, or sleep through tahajjud and pray fajr in the mosque. Pray fajr in the mosque is better. It's better. Does a traveler have to pray fard salah in the masjid? If you are at home, even, forget traveler, salah in the masjid is sunnah. Let alone when you're a traveler. On your traveler, even more so. Is there a hadith that if one refrains from using ruqya as a cure, they will be amongst those that enter Jannah without reckoning? Yes, and it means the ruqya that is discouraged or forbidden. Why? Because the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did ruqya every night. Is he not one of the 70,000? Did not the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do a recitation and blow on his hand, then wipe all over his body? Did he not do that for others? So ar-ruqya here meaning, according to Dardir, ar-ruqya either ar-ruqya bighayri sabab, ruqya for no reason, or ruqya intending ruqya done without sabr. And Allah knows best. But it's definitely not, we know for sure, is not the mashru' ruqya that the Prophet gave us. The Prophet ﷺ must have been speaking, as Dardir says, about ruqyas that are not valid or permitted. And Allah knows best. What do you think about navigating trauma after dealing with afflictions, but after you went through the healing process, how do you deal with the trauma afterwards? I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about this, but traumas, bad experiences are always dealt with certain natural remedies. Being with people that love you, being away from the location of the bad memories, being away from the people who caused the bad memories, like breaking those associations, going somewhere else. That's why people take a vacation after a bad thing happens. Go take a vacation, go change scenery. Much remembrance of Allah and much prayer and much love from your family and then just time. And Allah knows best. Maybe there's someone better to answer the question, but that's how I would answer it. How do we correct Muslims who misrepresent Islam without seeming weak in our beliefs or pushing people away with our frustration? Represent it properly and don't worry about those other people. You just represent it properly. When is there dhikr at NBIC? Well, tonight I'm going to be at a wedding, but Omar and Alif will lead the dhikr of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we do. And then you're on family night tomorrow, correct?
I am.
And that is at what time?
7.
7. So therefore, before Maghrib, we will not have a chance to do Dala'ilul Khairat. So we could do Dala'ilul Khairat. Khalas, we'll do it at the barbecue.
So I got a bunch of drums, chops, hot dogs, and thighs. So I'm gonna go marinate it. My sister's gonna marinate it. And then
Great job. We'll do our Dala'ilul Khairat after or while they're grilling.
yeah.
Right? We'll do Dala'ilul Khairat. We'll take the mic out and we'll do Dala'ilul Khairat. Okay?
Tayyib meat.
Huh?
Meat's gonna be tayyib.
Yeah, definitely. When is the convert event? First and third Friday of the month. We have, before family night, we have the convert class. Does Islam reward us for sharing beneficial worldly knowledge? Of course. Of course. A piece of of beneficial knowledge is better than money. Right? Knowledge is superior to money. Like beneficial knowledge, I'm saying, is superior to money. So if I get rewarded for giving out money to people, for sure I get rewarded for giving out knowledge to people.
When is the Waylam starting again?
September, inshallah. Like second week of September. Inshallah.
Is that the book?
No, actually third week of September.
Are you going through that this time?
No. It's going to be Aqidah. I have to edit the book. Yeah. What can be done to have barakah in time and memory? Barakah in time? Pray right away as soon as the time comes in. Barakah in memory, lower your gaze. Recitation of Quran daily will give you barakah 110%. Harris says. How is the Mawlid going to work? Can anyone come? You talking about the September 14th, the big one? Go get you have to register. We got to help. You got to help pay the costs for that. Because there's a big cost. Flying people in, renting the hall, getting the food. Okay? So celebrating the final prophet is the name of the event that we put on September 14th. What does a productive day look like? Any day in which you didn't disobey Allah, number one, that's the first sign of productivity. That's the first day you should... The Sufiya, they have a saying in their poetry. They say, any day we don't disobey Allah is Eid. Right? كل يوم لا نعصي الله فيه فهو عيد, they say. Secondly, any day in which you gained some knowledge or did some da'wah or advanced your studies or profession in the dunya and connected between your family and your friends and the community. There are like bases you want to cover. The first base is yourself. At least don't go backwards with sins.
I know we addressed this before. Attending the funeral of a non-Muslim.
Yeah.
Number one, you said it is allowed, but what would you recommend one should do if they are planning on attending to kind of navigate that whole affair?
Wait, repeat.
A funeral of a non-Muslim.
You can attend it.
So how would you navigate that if you're there and they're praying and they're doing certain things? Is there something we should be reciting? Is there something we should be doing while certain things are happening?
Yeah. I'll tell you how to navigate going to a non-Muslim funeral. Go to Jummah, look around, and watch how skilled people are at daydreaming and not paying attention. Okay? So if the Muslim does that in his obligatory Jummah, right, when he goes to his Christian neighbor's funeral, the moment the Bible opens up and they start praying, act like other brothers at Jummah. That guy's texting. He's not here at all, right? What else? If someone else besides you had asked me that question, I'd say, just act the way you act when at my khutbah. I see you, right? I see you along the wall over there, daydreaming, sometimes texting in the middle of Jummah. Who knows if your Jummah... By the way, just pray the Dhuhr. I don't know if your Jummah is valid. So, I mean, some people, they're Jummahs. That's it. As long as you don't take part in the prayer, khalas. Even if they're praying and you standing there. Oh man, we went to a Jummah at APPNA. And Mufti Kamani's gives a great khutbah about, he gives a perfect topic too. What's his name? Iqbal. I mean, this is for the community. He chose the right topic. I wouldn't have thought of that. He used Iqbal because you know everyone in APPNA is going to love Iqbal. APPNA is the Association of Pakistani Physicians of North America. After he gives the khutbah, all of a sudden the audience starts clapping. Round of applause. He is the first khatib. I told him. I texted him. You're the first khatib that I've ever seen get a round of applause for the khutbah. Never heard of this. Huh?
It was like wholesomely wrong. Like these guys, they're trying to like applaud him.
Unbelievable. Like they're
trying to show love at the same time.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Anyway, but you know what's good about this though? I think you mentioned or someone used to go to APPNA. There's hardly any Jummah happening. Now, because Muslims, wherever there are people, Muslims should go. And now the Jummah was overflowing. Like they estimated, you know, the hall that we went into was huge, but they only used a sliver for Jummah. That's what they thought. But we ended up praying Jummah all the way in the middle of the hallway. So Muslims should go to wherever Muslims are. You go there and give da'wah and do good things, and you'll last. Fisq and fasad and batil, it always just it goes away. You see these people disappear. Remember a long time ago, not even a long time ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, we used to always say, just wait. There's going to be a day where you say to yourself, where'd all the gays go? Where's all the LGBT? Right? And it's happening. You look around on June, and I don't even know when the month is anymore, June or July. I'm driving around and I'm like, isn't it June? Where are all the gay pride flags? It's almost like this year someone forgot to upload it or something, right? Like someone forgot to click the button. The months before that, ShopRite, gas stations, everywhere is rainbow flags. Everywhere. You couldn't escape it. It was so in your face. This year, you walked around, drove around North Brunswick, New Brunswick, George Street. You don't see a single thing. Like, where did it all go? It's like a button was pushed. Fasad, anything that's not natural, it just disappears. And that's why, and our ulama in Hadramaut, who we love, they did this at the Hood market. Nabiullah Hood was started off as a marketplace, not as a dawah event. But the ulama of Al-Ba'alawi, starting with, if I'm not mistaken, Sayyidina al-Faqir Muqaddim Muhammad ibn Ali Ba'alawi, he's the one who said, let's go do dawah there. Right? And they started doing dawah with the intent to go to the burial grounds of Hud, alayhi salam, was to have a market there, to buy and sell. But then they went there to give dawah because there's Muslims there, right? Now the markets change and the economies change and no one goes there for trade, but the dawah remains. And they have a 4-day conference now every year there. And all the tribes come. And it's now a place where, like, to unify the tribes, to see everybody, to give speeches, to remind everyone, to get everyone on the same heart. And for them, it's like an amazing event. And now the market only exists because of that. It's now flipped. A lot of people said to me, why are you going to APPNA? First of all, it doesn't really count when I go to APPNA. Neither am I a doctor nor am I Desi. So I'm like a foreigner. If I'm on outside, if I get insulted, I don't care, right? If it was like Egyptian APPNA or like Egyptian Physicians Association and someone gets arrogant with me, I'd be offended because, like, these are, right, you're offending me. But if a Desi doctor looks at me, looks down at me, I don't care. I'm not Desi, so it doesn't hurt me the same way. So that's why the Desis were more like, why are you going there? These people are like this, that, and the other. But for me, I could care less. All right, here's another question. This question says, is it sunnah to read Surah Al-Kahf before Jummah or anytime? Anytime from Fajr to Maghrib. Finish it before Maghrib. Where do I register for this event? You go to Celebrating the Final Prophet, Google it, and you'll see Alifun. Put the link there. Okay. All right. If the Messiah will rule when he returns, why is it haram to call him Lord? Even Yusuf called the king Lord. A Lord can apply to God and it can apply to anyone in charge. A woman is called Rabbatul Manzil. A man is called Rabbud Dar. Same thing. Lord of the house. The word Lord applies to creation and the creator. The word God is the problem. But when a Christian says Christ is Lord, he means God. He doesn't mean the one in charge, right? Why is it wrong to worship God in the name of the Messiah? So I don't understand what that means. What does it mean in the name of the Messiah? You're not worshiping God on behalf of the Messiah. You're worshiping God on your behalf. To give you an example, this Friday sermons, when Muslims had a king or a Khalif or a sultan, the Friday sermon is given in the name of the sultan. What does that mean? That means the sultan can't be in 100 mosques at one time. So I'm given this sermon, but it's actually his message, right? So I'm telling you something that the ruler wants to tell you. That's what it means. This khutbah, I give it in the name of the sultan, meaning he's not here. If he was here, he would give this speech. He's told me to give you this message. That's one of the meanings when you do something in someone's name. But you don't worship God on behalf of Jesus. You worship God on your own behalf. Okay? When we say in the name of God, it has another meaning. It means for the sake of God. By the way that God taught me, I worship. Only for God do I worship. So the phrase in the name of could have multiple meanings depending on your context. When I worship Allah and I say in the name of Allah, I mean by it for the sake of God, the way God told me, and only for God. Verse is a khatib or any spokesman. Even when you arrest somebody, in the old days, you say in the name of the law, right? Meaning, I represent the law here. The judge and the king can't be everywhere at once, so I represent him and I'm arresting you, so on and so forth. So all those are the different meanings of the phrase in the name of.
1500 years. The Prophet this Mawlid, 1500 years
What do you mean?
since the birth of the Prophet.
This year, it's 1500 years since the actual birth of Sayyid al-Kawnayn. I didn't do the math on that, subhanAllah. هذا شيء عجيب. Would it contradict tasawwuf to wear nice clothes? No, it wouldn't. What contradicts tasawwuf is that you care more about your clothes than about Allah Himself and His Messenger and jihad fi sabilihi and nawafil and dhikr and humility and all that stuff. So you were to negate some virtue for the sake of your clothes. And sometimes I get embarrassed when I'm with very pious people because they'll like take off a very expensive scarf and they'll give it to you. And I'm like, I don't want to give you my scarf though, right? Right? So one guy took a jubba off his back one time and he gave it to me. And I'm like, I don't have anything here except for this dinky little oud that I want to give you because I'm attached to my stuff. I'm not as good as you. I'm not as pious as you are. But maybe we should be. Is it bad to miss reading Surah Al-Mulk one night? You can't say you're not sinful, but if you always do something, you should try to always do it. What is the ruling on Raf' al-Yadayn in the Maliki madhab? The raising of your hands in the Maliki madhab is sunnah, I should say sunnah khafifa. It's not sunnah ghair mu'akkada. It's not from the sunnah mu'akkada that would require sujood al-Sahw, but it's sunnah khafifa, or you could say nafl, same thing, to do it upon takbirat al-ihram as such, with your palms out and your hands hovering somewhere around between your shoulders and your ears. Say Allahu Akbar one time upon takbirat al-ihram, which is the saying Allahu Akbar when you enter salah, and that's it, not anymore. How do I understand the difference between negative and positive attachment with people? The negative attachment with people is that if you were to be detached from them, you would enter into the disobedience of God. You would do something sinful. That's a negative attachment. Positive attachment is what is beyond that. Positive attachment. That when you're with each other and your attachment makes you advise one another, be good to one another, help one another, all that. But the negative attachment is that if you were to be separated from this person, you would commit sins. That's a negative attachment. Is clapping haram or makruh in the Maliki madhab? Oh, I don't even have a nas for that, but I would assume it's makruh. And also it depends when. There's different mawaqif. Okay. So for example, clapping when it's a urf to clap, would that decrease it? Probably not. Like if you were at a speech at a secular university's graduation, clapping is different. If you're at a masjid and you clap, that probably is makruh because the Quran mentions that the worship of pagans was clapping. If you intend by it some kind of, Allah knows best, to be honest with you. If you make a mistake when reciting prayer, then correct yourself. Does this require sujood al-Sahw? Sujood al-Sahw is required for 8 reasons in the Maliki madhab. If you miss any takbir or sami Allahu liman hamida, if you miss the surah in the after Fatiha and the first 2 rakas, if you swap the silent and out loudness of salah, and the silent and out loud meet at hearing yourself. So hearing yourself is the least of out loud and the most of silent. And if you skip the tashahhud, right? If you skip any of the tashahhud, accidentally. By the way, all of this is forgetfulness, not intentionally. If you skip any of these things intentionally, your salah is invalid. But it's called sujood al-Sahw, not sujood al-Tark. As-Sahw is that you forgot any of one of these 8 things, not left it off on purpose. Okay, so Sinani, Shinani, Jimani, Kada, or Ta'ani, or whatever the poem says, Ta'ani, Adda Sunan al-Thamani. So As-Surah was Sirriya, and the 2 Jims are Al-Jahr wal-Julus, sitting for the final taslim, sitting for the tashahud, I mean. And then the Ta'ani, At-Tashahud al-Awwal, wat-Takbir. And then you have, what else am I missing? Saying Sami Allahu liman hamida. So that's your 8 sunan mu'akkada in the Maliki madhab. So again, the surah after Fatiha, that's 2. Then the tashahud, then the takbir, all the takbirat, saying Allahu Akbar. Then the julus, the sitting for the tashahud, and the jahriya, saying out loud what should be out loud. That's 6. So we said the takbir wa tahmid wal julu. Oh, and the tashahud. Okay. What inspired you to be a Maliki? Because the method of Amal Ahl Medina just makes so much sense. It's hard to go against that. Amal Ahl Medina. The question was, why did you become convinced of the Maliki madhab? Couple more questions before we wrap up. Do dua need to be verbalized or said silently? Supplication between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be done out loud or silently. But the adhkar of the sunan should be said with your moving your tongue. Yes.
With the jalsa in the Maliki school, what is the time?
Jalsa?
How much is it?
You have to say the tashahud.
You have to, okay.
The jalsa is when we said the sitting during tashahud. So yeah, and the sitting for the taslim is the fard. Not a
How long do
sunnah
you have to
muakkad.
pause between the ruku? When you come up from sajda, how long do you have to sit between?
A moment.
Just a moment?
Yeah, just a moment. I read in the Quran that the Prophet ﷺ would pray 2/3 of the night. Would he do this in complete darkness, or would he have some lamps? No, they had complete darkness or moonlight. When is it haram to pray tahiyyat al-masjid? I would say that it is makruh to pray tahiyyat al-masjid. The timing that we say after Asr and after Fajr, it's waqtul karahiyah. It's makruh to pray any salah, nafila, after the sun rises up until it's fully up. From Fajr until the sun is fully up. Qadr al-rumh, the amount of the length of, meaning high up in the sky that you could see it. Or after you pray Asr, then nafila, including tahiyyat al-masjid, salat al-istikhara, any nafila, any non-obligatory prayer is makruh at those times. Also, while the khatib is on the minbar, when you walk in the Maliki and Hanafi think too, madhabs, if the khatib is already giving the khutbah, you don't pray. Yeah. And that one hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ commanded someone to pray, that was not tahiyyat al-masjid, that was, he had already sat down. And the Prophet, when the Prophet commands you to pray, that wasn't a sunnah for him, that's fard now, because the Prophet commanded you. And the only reason the Prophet commanded that is to show everyone how poor he was. So he was extremely poor, visibly off in terms of poverty. So the Prophet commanded that so everyone would see how poor he was. So for him, he was not praying nafila during fard. He was praying fard during fard, right? And that fard was specific to him for that reason. Question on tahajjud is usually when you sleep and then you wake up with a completely fresh mind and then pray tahajjud. Will we be putting new stuff on Maliki Fiqh? Yes, of course. We just had a little bit of a pause in the summertime. Can a man display the chest above the navel in public? It wouldn't be forbidden. However, it would be discouraged if it is contrary to muru'a, which is the what Muslims think is good without having a text for it. And that falls under the command of the Prophet ﷺ, which is what Muslims find good is good. Right? Meaning beyond the text of Sharia, if Muslims come to see that something is harmful to the community, but there's no text that says it's haram, that's what adab is. And muru'a is determined. Muru'a is nobility, noble behavior, is determined by that. So there's no text for it, but we all find a reason. There's a reason why we think it's good or bad. And walking into the mosque without a shirt in this day and age, we would all consider that not good. There are places where that's not a problem. Why? Because their lifestyle ends up in that people are bare-chested all the time. Poverty, who knows what else. They're in an island by the ocean and they're always wet and they're always swimming or whatever. Who knows what. But it is based upon urf. So again, a good definition of adab and muru'a and all those things is that it's what the community, the righteous people of the community have all agreed is good, but without a text, direct text of Sharia. And it all has to do with benefit and harm. Alifu, the Umrah, put it up there for us. Anybody can come to this Umrah that we're going to. We just emphasize that it's for youth, but anybody can go. So sign up before the seats get taken. Are there any mujtahids in today's age? For sure. And how do I recognize one? Every madhab has the mufti in the madhab. For example, Sheikh Ahmed Maghili is a mufti in our madhab. Then there is in the Maliki madhab. Murabit al-Hajj before him was a mufti within the madhab. He can give fatwa on new matters. You have now probably, you could say, Sheikh Abdul Hamid al-Mubarak is a mufti in the madhab. He gives fatwa. Murabit Bah in Mauritania. If you're plugged into a madhab, you'll learn who the muftis are. In the Hanafi school, Dr. Salah Abul Hajj is a mufti. A sheikh in Pakistan, Mufti Taqi Uthmani, is a mufti. So we don't call them mujtahid mutlaq. There's no need for a mujtahid mutlaq. We only need muftis within the madhab. And that's also known as mujtahid fin nazila. Hit fade, hit cut.
We slated over. You want to do
Huh? There you go. Yeah, keep it up. If the purpose of khutbah is political talk from ruler to the people, why is it not practiced today? It is practiced. All over the Islamic world, they got this fake khutbah and he's reading it from the endowment that he's government's khutbah. I think everywhere. Every Muslim country, pretty much, the khatib, like in Saudi, you think that he's given his own khutbah? Right? Unless he is the author of the government khutbahs. Like I think Sudais is actually one of the authors of government khutbahs, if I'm not mistaken. He's like from the people they author the government khutbahs, and then everyone's got to give that khutbah. That's how it is. What can a woman do or not do if she has her Haid's menstrual period during Hajj? She does all of the rituals of Hajj, and then she sinfully, if she has to, sinfully does the final rukn, the only rukn that requires wudu, which is tawaf al-ifada. Sinfully, and she pays dam. And then her Hajj will be, that for that, it will be valid tawaf, but it will be sinful. So that's not a fatwa, because the fatwa cannot entail committing sins. You can't say, my fatwa is that you need to commit sins. But it is the only workaround you have. The reason being is that in the old days, there wasn't a idea of leaving Hajj right away and only being there for 10 days or 14 days. People stayed for a longer period of time. So that she would just do all the rituals of Hajj, stay in Ihram, wait until she can take a ghusl, and then go make Tawaf al-Ifada. And the rest of the group wouldn't have left. But today, with airlines and flights, the only way out for such a person is, as it was explained to me by Dr. Mateen and others in the Hanafi school, they cannot say it's a fatwa, but it's the only way out. My flight's leaving and my Hajj just started right on Yom Arafah. Now I can't do Tawaf al-Ifada before the flight leaves. So she will sinfully do the Tawaf, and she has to play them, knowing that it's sinful, but also making istighfar that there's no other way out. Okay. And that tawaf would be valid but sinful. And inshallah, hopefully, the forgiveness will be easy because you're not doing this for fun. or out of laziness or out of willing disobedience. You're doing it because you're jammed up. Okay, but that's the only makhraj that the ulama give. Is it makruh in the Maliki madhab to wear Islamic clothing outside the masjid setting in a land where almost no one wears Islamic attire? No, but only the intent possibly, or the result. If it's something that is a hallmark of fame, then we shouldn't do it. In other words, if you're intending that, or if that's the result. So that's also the reason why Malik didn't like any out of the ordinary displays of piety, because it will harm your intention too. So if you have a very big beard, now everyone says, oh, puts you up here, but you're not up there. Or gives you it spoils your intention. And also makes a bad example, because if they think you're up here, but you're actually not, you're a bad example. Getting attention to yourself is not liked. That's the whole idea. Did people just fabricate the story of Imam Malik's broken arm when Imam Malik's arm getting broken, that story as being the reason for praying with the arms down, it does not exist in any Maliki book that I've seen. Nor any sheikh, they will just laugh at it. Any Maliki sheikh, find me a Maliki sheikh who affirms it, that's the reason for sadr. I love how people outside the madhab know better about the imam. That's like saying, I know your dad's biography and your granddad's biography actually better than you, right?
It's like what the Orientals do.
It's the behavior of Orientalists.
Like Sheikh Amin, I was reading his Khalwadi, he had a
Mhm.
paper on this in Al-Jazeera.
Yeah.
I think he mentioned an incident where like one of the students, he like submitted some sort of manuscript, like some Arabic, for something. I don't know if it was for some old book or something in that or something. And then the person that was like overseeing it was like some lady, some Oriental lady. She's like, oh, we can't accept it. There's no Western citations
Yeah.
from the Western.
That's
sources."
crazy.
What do you mean?
It's a manuscript.
There's no Western citation.
Someone says, how can I find a long-term murabbi if the shuyukh are overwhelmed with so many disciples? It's like a family. At a certain point, the fourth and the fifth and the sixth kid don't get raised by their parents 100% anymore. It's the environment and the teaching and the ta'aleem and observation. You'll get better. And ultimately, we don't believe the shaykh is a murabbi. He's a means. Allah Ta'ala is the one who guides us. So there are multiple sources of guidance. The book is a source of guidance. The video is a source of guidance. A good Muslim friend is a source of guidance. Your enemy is a source of guidance because he's going to look for your flaws. So it's the one who wants to be guided. Allah will send him whatever means to guide him. Even his worst enemy will be his guide, because he is my guide in my flaws. He's my guide in patience. Either he's going to say something true about me or false. If he says something false, he's my guide in how to rely upon Allah and turn to Allah. The shaykh will never say anything false about me, right? So he can't teach me that, right? If he says something true about me, then I know I have to change, right? I know I got to change. The shaykh will never humiliate you with your flaws more than your enemy will. So it's not about finding the murabbi like the old days when a sheikh says, I spent 50 years with my sheikh, every single minute of my life I was with him. That doesn't exist anymore. Hardly exists, right? It's the intention. You intend to be guided. You intend for Allah Ta'ala to make your heart pleasing to Allah. You're going to get guidance right away, immediately from the environment around you, right? And that's how we have to be. And with that, we will stop here. Jazakumullahu khairan, everybody. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Aşkınla arasında yıldızlar kadar zikredin. Uzlat şarabından için şu canı aşkla versinler. Ya Allah. Shuyukh Are.